All right, now let's talk about how to make circle graphs. So let's say we have, I can't quite see it, this data table right here, okay? We have endangered species, here's mammals, there's 342 endangered birds, there's 273, fish 126, and so on. We want to make a circle graph for this data, okay? In order to do that, we're going to follow a few steps, and you should copy these down in your notes because you're going to need them. All right, so the first step is to find the total. So I'm going to add together all of these numbers, which you can see here, it's 1,070. So I'll just copy it here. So my total is 1,070, okay? Now what we need to do is we need to find the measure of the central angles. So if you think about the fact that a circle measures 360 degrees, we want to figure out how big of an angle each of these is going to be. And you can see, obviously, because it's the example, what it looks like down here. You want to figure out but what we're talking about is how do you get this? How do you know that for mammals, the angle looks like this? Well, the way you do it is by simply doing a proportion. So you are going to, our step is use proportions. To find central angles. This is one of those lessons where it's a lot of steps, but you're not likely to get it wrong. If you follow the process, you will get it correct. You just have to take your time and follow the steps, okay? So the way the proportion works is it's going to be part over whole equals x over 360. So instead of 100% like we usually do with proportions, when we're finding the parts and the wholes, we are finding, instead of finding the percent, we're finding the number of degrees of the circle. So that's why the bottom is 360, because the total circle equals 360. So for mammals, I would do the part, which is 342, because there's 342, over the whole, which is 1,070, equals x over 360, because a circle has 360 degrees total. So 342 times 360, and then I divide by that 1,070. That's cross multiplying. I'm just not writing out all the steps because by now you know how to do that. So for mammals, the angle is going to be 115 degrees. Okay. For birds, it's 273 is the number for birds over, again, that 1,070, because the total is still 1,070. And then the second ratio is always x over 360. So again, I'm going to cross multiply 273 times 360 divided by 1,070. And so it's about 92 degrees for birds. And we're going to round here, okay? For fish, our proportion is going to be 126 over 1,070, and again, it's x over 360 every single time. So I'm going to cross multiply 126 times 360 divided by 1,070, and so I get about 42. Sorry, you can't see that color. I'm going to round that to 42 degrees. So fish is 42 degrees. Reptiles, we have 115. So again, 115 over 1,070 equals x over 360. And then I'm going to cross multiply and divide. So 115 times 360 divided by 1,070 is that one. I'm going to choose to round it to 39. So reptiles is 39 degrees. What else do we have left? Clams, insects, and others. Okay, so clams have 72. And you should be doing all of this in your notes as well, okay? Practicing it is going to help you to be better. So be doing it along with me. Don't just be staring at the screen and not thinking about what you're doing. to actually be doing the cross multiplication and figuring out these angles with me, because you can pause if I'm going too fast, okay? So it's about 24 degrees for clams. Insects, we have 48. So 48 over that 1070 equals x over 360. And again, cross multiplying 48 times 360 divided by 1070. So see, it's a lot of steps, but really it's the same thing over and over again. Insects is 16 degrees. One more to do the other animals. There are 94 of the total of 1070. So let's find its central angle. So 94 times 360 divided by 1070. So round that to 32. All right, so now step 2 is done. I have all of my .24-degree angle. For other, I need a 32-degree angle. For insects, I need a 16-degree angle. For reptiles, I need a 39-degree angle. And for birds, I need a 92-degree angle. So now what we're going to do is create our circle graph, okay? So step 3 is to use a compass, draw a circle. And I am going to suggest that you draw a big circle, because the bigger you draw it, the easier it's going to be to work with. If you make a circle that's just this big, it's going to be very difficult for you to measure the angles. Remember, math is not one of those subjects where we are trying to save paper, okay? Because we need to be able to show our work. We need to have room to process our thoughts. All right, so a compass, this is a compass. Remember that you want to have a few sheets of paper because you want to give this tip something to dig into, okay? And I'm going to make mine even a little bit bigger. Okay, so I am pressing down here and I am turning from the top, and I'm just trying to keep that point in the same spot. And I just keep moving around, okay, until I have my whole circle traced. All right, there we go. And then where my hole is in the middle, where the dot, where the compass point was, I need to make sure I put a dot there so I remember that spot. All right, so I'm circle, and now I am going to construct the angles with a protractor. All right, so here's a protractor. Let me remind you how we're going to be using this, okay? The first thing we're going to do is draw a radius. So we're going to go from that center point, and we're going to go out like that. Okay, so now we have a radius. And then I'm going to come back to this data, and I'm going to start with my largest angle. So the biggest angle I have is 115 degrees for mammals. So I'm going to put the center of the circle in that hole of the protractor, and I'm going to line my radius up with this line on the protractor, this, and then I'm going to count up to the 115 degree mark. So I'm not going to use these outside numbers because those are counting down. I need to be counting up, so I'm going to use the inside numbers. Here's 110, here's 120, so it'd be about right here, okay? So I'm just going to put a little dot to mark my spot, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these two spots together with the straight edge of my protractor. And I'm going to draw the line obviously just to the edge of the circle, okay? And so right here I have mammals. So now what I've done is constructed a 115 degree angle to represent the mammals. So that's my first one done. Now my next biggest is, what was that again? Birds. So I'm going to do that one next. I'm always going from largest to smallest. So now what we need to do is I'm going to turn my paper, and just like I used this as my first line for mammals, I'm going to use the line I just made as my first line for birds. Okay, and birds needs to have a 92 degree angle, so again I'm going to count up. 92 is going to be about right there, and then I'm going to connect together. So there's my line for birds. So birds is done. My next largest is fish. So fish needs to be a 42-degree angle. So again, I'm going to use the last line that I made. Line up, and 42 be about right here. I'm going to connect my points together like that. So there's fish. And the next one is 39 degrees for reptile. So I'm going to go ahead and calculate or measure that one. So using that last line I had, and I'm going 39 degrees. It's going to be about right there. And then I'm going to connect my lines. This. So now we have reptiles. That one's done. All right, C is clams. I need a 24-degree angle. So here's where it's going to get a little trickier, right? Because they get smaller, but that's okay. We can still do it. So 24 degrees would be about right here. I'm going to connect. I'm going off the screen. Connect the dots. So there's my line for clams. So that one's done. Insects, 16 degrees. So I'm going to use that last line I drew once again. I'm going to measure up to 16 degrees, which here's 10 and here's 20. So 16 is going to be just past the half mark on that. And there's insects. Oh, oops, I skipped the other. I should have done that one first, but that's okay. And then I can assume that this one is going to be enough for other, but I can check it by measuring. If I go at this line, and then 32 would be about right here. So this is pretty close because that line would pretty much go there. So I can call this one other. There. And so now I have created my circle graph. And then if I wanted to also have percents to go with each one, I would simply take these numbers and divide them by the total and multiply by 100. So for example, mammals is 342. It's 342 out of that 1,070. And then I multiply that times 100. And so mammals is about 32% of the total endangered species. Birds is 273. So I'm going to do 273 divide. It's just like calculating your grade on something. Part divided by whole times 100. Birds is about 26%. Fish, 126 divided by 1,070 times 100. It's about 12%. I guess they're rounding, so I'll round it to 11.8%. Reptile, 115 divided by 1,070. And again, please be doing all of this along with me. This is how you're going to practice and learn. So reptiles is about 10.7%. Clams, we have 72. So it's 6.7% of the endangered species are clams. Insects, 48 divided by 1,070 times 100. So it's about 4.5% for insects. And then other is 94. So I'm going to do 94 divided by 1,070. Again, it's part divided by whole times 100. It's about 8.8%. So now you know how to construct circle graphs. So when you have to do these with your assignment, you can come and watch this video again and follow the steps as needed. Okay. Finally, of course, you need to, I should add in calculate percents, and then it's part divided by whole times 100, and then 6 is label, which we did as we went along, but we also need to title it. If you were coloring it, you could also color key, but we've already got all the information there, so we don't need to color it, but we should give it a title. So endangered So you always want to give a title to your graph, okay? And then you could trace around it if you want to have the, won't look nice and neat, but that way it'll show up better. All right, so that is how to create a circle graph.